civil rights in 1956. I wanted to do something about civil rights. And I'm a white Southerner. You knew I was white, but you weren't sure I was a Southerner. I am a Southerner. My cousins run the Belk stores all over the South.
Oh, I did not know that.
Go in the stores and shop. Mention my name. They add 20% to your bill. So, this is a short story, Ken. So, I knew, how do you meet? I want to meet Martin Luther King. One of those crazy thoughts again. But I thought if I could meet King and let him know as a white Southerner, I felt the same as he did. How do you do it? I had a black friend who was a big man, militant leader in the NAACP, named Charlie Howard. He gave the keynote address when Henry Wallace ran on the socialist ticket. This is way before your time. Don't worry about it. Charlie was the key. We're in Atlanta, Georgia, visiting that great family, the Wolferts. Charlie calls Martin Luther King's office in Montgomery, Alabama. King's secretary talked to King. He agreed to see us. The Wolferts loaned us a black Packard. We drove early in the morning. I'm driving, and Charlie Howard is sitting in the front seat next to me. He was 6'4", 195 pounds, a great, almost all-American player at the University of Iowa. Real man. This is not done in the South. A white driver and a black man sitting at the front seat with him. We didn't think about any of that. This is the middle of segregation. Everything, I grew up there. Everything. Restaurants were segregated, bathrooms were segregated, white and colored. Tragic period in life, but that's the way it was. So we go to see King in his office in Montgomery right after the bus boycott, where Rosa Parks refused to sit in the back of the bus. We waited 3 hours in King's office. And I said to Charlie, I think we should leave. He said, no, we're going to wait. Another 10 minutes, the secretary came out and said, Dr. King will see you. I was a white elephant in the room. Really. I'm sure what he was doing on the phone is figuring, why has a Belk come over here to see me? I know who Charlie Howard is, but why did he come? So we had this talk with him at the desk, and Charlie and I told him we'd been speaking through universities together. Something happened. That often happens in a conference. Some magical thing happened. He relaxed, and I was terribly impressed with King. There's an aura about him that is a little mystical, but it's there. He said, what are you men doing for lunch? Charlie said, we haven't had anything to eat since breakfast. We have no plans for lunch. He picks up the phone and he says, Coretta, I have 2 interesting men in my office here. I'm bringing them to lunch. Sit 2 more places. We leave in his car. 3 of us go to his home, had a white picket fence around it, big oak trees in the yard. The yard has been swept completely clean. 2 FBI agents behind 2 big trees. The 3 of us, I'm in the middle, Dr. King, Charlie, we walk from the car to the front door, and we are filmed. I want to go to the FBI and have a look at that one day. So we had this absolutely wonderful Southern lunch, which Coretta had cooked, and we became friends. We became close friends. King said to me, I've never said this before, he said, we're won the battle. We can sit anywhere on the buses, but we're more divided as a race ever before. What's the answer? We talked about character being as important as color. Go back to what color is God's skin? And if we could lift the character of America, we could have a colorblind country. How about that? Lift the character. That's it. Fast forward. This is getting to the end. Fast forward. Next year, King came to Washington for his first speech at the Lincoln Memorial. Thousands turned out. First march on Washington. I went to it. And King and I stayed in touch during that period. He had become Martin and I'd become Blanton. I was honored. And I went up at the end of his speech, which was a tremendous speech, and a crowd was around him. Ralph Abernathy, his lieutenant, Roy Wilkins, head of the NAACP, and all of them around talking to him, and all the press was there, and I'm on the outside. King sees me over the crowd. I'm the only white guy there. Blanton, he says, what are you doing here? Come on in the circle. And I went in the circle. He said, what did you think of my speech? You're a Southerner. And I told him I thought it would resonate with everybody. Thought it was a universal speech. And I knew I had about 10 seconds left with him, and I blurted out, Martin, what are you doing for dinner? He turned to Ralph Abernathy, and he said, Ralph, what are we doing for dinner? Roy Wilkins, what do we do? He had no plans for dinner. I said, look, I have the use of a house on Massachusetts Avenue. Could you come to dinner? So he says to Ralph, get down the address, we'll go to dinner. This is 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I go back to this house. 2 great cooks, Rachel and Harriet. I've known them for years. I had the use of this magnificent house in Massachusetts Avenue. I said, guess who's coming to dinner? This is getting close, Ken. Hold on. I said, guess who's coming to dinner? Dr. King. Oh, my God, they started laughing. They were laughing so hard they sat down in chairs. I said, please, Dr. King is coming to dinner. Look, Blanton, you've always been a jokester. We know you're pulling out of that. I said, please. They finally got to the point that I was about to cry. And I said, please, he's coming in this house, probably in an hour. Those 2 cooks fixed a meal you won't believe. I went and seated the table, thinking 8 or 10 people would come. 7 o'clock, the doorbell rings and 18 people come in. One. My seating went to the dogs, and Martin said to me, Blanton, sit at the end of the table with me. And Dr. King, his father, was there, and he said, Father, I want you to give the blessing. We've had a fantastic, miraculous day. The press has now got the point of what we've got to do in this country. And we sat there, and King and I had a long talk together. King was killed. I have wonderful letters from Corella. It was a friendship. And she said what it meant to Martin. You started out 50 years ago to build peace in the world. Peace was the message of the youth of the 60s. I'll tell you what you've done already, and this will end it. You built a solid circle of friends around the world, 22,000 from 125 countries. Wow. It's trite to say it, But peace is not just an idea. It's people of the world becoming friends. It's people of the world becoming friends. I became a friend to King. It meant a lot to me, and it seems that it meant a lot to King. That's a great thing. But you have built a circle of friends who won't kill each other ever. They won't. They won't do it. You know what? We've all had experiences for 50 years that very few people in the world have had. They say the world in the next 35 years will go from 7 billion to 9.5 billion people. They'll need water, they'll need food, they'll need new energy, and they're calling on the world to be the most creative period, a renaissance in thought. What they leave out is, how do we get along with people not like us? How do we get along with people not like us? That's what you know. You've experienced in the cast, you've experienced in the families, you've experienced together. That's a responsibility we have in the future to do something about this whole world. Thank you for bearing with me, and thank you for having me. Somebody can help me down.